everybody, welcome to another battle report. Yes, you've guessed it, it's 4,500 points. Yes, you've guessed it again, it's against my good buddy Silas, which all my games seem to be recently, but we do have the Fading Flames tournament coming up, so we're finally going to get some new opponents. As always, if you haven't done already, please hit that like and subscribe button. As previously mentioned, if you would like a game against Silas or I, then do please let us know. I'm going to flash up the lists. You can pause and take a closer look if you like, and then we will get into deployment. Okay, so here we are in deployment then. So we are on map number 11. The deployment type is the refused flank, and the secondary objective is the spoils of war. Silas is actually playing our mutual friend Tim's list, which is super chariot heavy, as you can see. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes on. Apparently this list has never lost a game when Tim has been playing it, so that'll be interesting to see. I've got a slightly modified version of a previous list. I've got a big unit of Goblin Spears and a unit of Orc Boar Riders, Feral Orc Boar Riders over here. Interested to see how these do. I've swapped one unit of Feral Orcs for these two units. They cost exactly the same, so a straight core for core swap there. I've also downgraded my Huntsman Spider and stuck in a couple of Binding Scrolls and a few more Iron Orcs as well, so interested to see how they get on. Anyway, let's go through the units. So we'll start with Silas's on the left. So we've got a unit of Ryman Knights here and a unit of Reavers. You've got the three commanders on chariots here, a Reaver chariot here, and then an Eagle, unit of Seaguard with the BSB commander, Master of Canrig Tower in there, a couple of Lion chariots, big unit of 5 Eagles, 2 more Reaver chariots, the commander on Griffin, that's the general, the Citizen Spears here, and the Reavers over here. On my side, Feral Orc Boar Riders, unit of Goblin Spearmen with a Chief, 2 units of Raiders, these are the Spider versions, Nasher Dashers, unit of Goblins with a Witch Doctor, bigger unit of Iron Orcs here with the Chief and the Feral Orc Shaman, Splatterer and an Orc Boar Chariot, Nasher Dashers, the Feral Orcs here, another Splatterer, and then the Goblin King on a Huntsman over here. So that's deployment. We'll quickly flash up Vanguards and then we'll get into turn 1, which would be going to Silas. Okay, so this is Vanguards. Then you can see Silas has brought the 2 Reaver units around the flanks, and that makes sense. I've just run 1 unit up into the ruins, and that is essentially bait, because they're striders, so they can handle being in the ruins, but these chariots, if they go crashing into the ruins, that's going to do some serious damage to them. A little bit risky, because there's a very good chance that I would lose my unit, but I would of course flee and end up over here. So if the chariots did make it, they would be right on top of my lines and then I could pounce on them. So testing the bait there a little bit really. But I think the thing with Tim's army, what I'm going to be playing for here is the range. It's a super fast army. Almost everything in this army is at least movement 8 and swift striding. I can't deal with it all at once. So what I'm going to be trying to do is bait Silas into sending bits of it to me one at a time so that I can kind of split it into smaller chunks and deal with them, sort of step by step. So that's what I'm going for there, just trying to get a couple of chariots out of the way first. I think the key to this army, to beating this army, is to attack the chariots rather than the blocks, because once you've disarmed the chariots, it doesn't have a lot of punch in it. Anyway, that's what I'm going for. So there's Vanguards. Okay, Silas's movement 1 here then. So you can see he's been fairly cautious here. He doesn't want to come running his chariots up too close and then have me activate my war cry and make a swift striding charge at him. So interesting that he's kind of hanging back a little bit, trying to come around the sides, certainly with the Reavers, the Ryman Knights and this chariot to some extent over here. and then his Griffin commander kind of hanging round behind the hill here. So this was Silas's movement 1. We didn't actually take a photograph for the end of Silas's turn 1 because not a huge amount happened. He got the Oaken Throne and a Favour of Melodies off in the magic phase, and he killed one raider in the ruins here with the Sea God, but no photograph for that. So that's the end of Silas's turn 1. Okay, end of my movement 1 here then. So I've declared 3 charges in my movement 1. The raiders here have charged at the eagle. I don't want that chaffing up my units later, but have failed that charge. So they've only ended up moving, I think, 2 or 3 inches kind of within the ruins, and that's fine. I'm perfectly happy with that. The boar riders down here charged the reavers who fled, and they caught them. This is not a great economy because a unit of reavers costs less than a unit of boar riders, but I don't want the reavers being chaff and getting behind my lines later. So I simply have to accept that, and I've brought these Nasher Dashers over here to chaff up the units around the side here later, because the boar riders are not really fit for that job, and I need my other chaff in the middle here because Silas has so many chariots. So that's that, and then the Dashers here failed a 10-inch swift riding charge, so a speculative attempt, but failed a 10-inch swift stride on this chariot here, so that's why they're there. And then a cautious advance, close enough for Silas to reach me, but far enough away that some of his charges should fail. Again, trying to deal with the chariots one by one is the idea there. So that's the end of my movement 1. Okay, end of my turn 1 here then. So in the magic phase, I've got Trial of Faith off on the commander here, but Silas has used his Favour of Melodies to negate that wound. I've also removed the Oaken Throne in my magic phase, and then I have done 3 wounds on the chariot here, but Silas has negated one of those with the Favour of Melodies, but then that was with my first splatter, and then my second splatter has actually finished off this chariot here. So at the end of my turn, I've basically taken out a chariot and used up Silas's Favour of Melodies, and that's the end of my turn 1. Okay, Silas's movement 2 here then. So he's declared 3 charges. He's gone at the Nasher Dashers with his Reaver chariot, which is redirected into the Iron Orcs. He's gone at the raiders here on the flank with his Lion chariot, and he's gone at the Feral Orc boar riders with his Knights of Rhymer. Now, I'm pretty happy with these 2. The Reaver chariot has no chance it will be dismantled. And I'm quite happy with this. I accept that the raiders are dispensable, and this is going to enable me to make a charge here later. End of the road for the boar riders, but that was something I'd already committed to, so not too worried about that. Rallied his eagle over here, and really good play down here, using the splatterer to prevent my king from getting round and blocking this charge later on, so that's good play. That's movement 2. Okay, end of Silas's 2 here then. So in the magic phase, he's got a Favour of Melodies and the Oaken Throne off. He's undone a wound on the chariot with a Favour of Melodies. He's also cast Awaken the Beast on the chariot, but that's not going to help it if it gets charged by a unit of Iron Orcs. His shooting has all failed to wound, but his shooting is strength 3, AP 0, so that's not a massive surprise really. Knights of Rhymer have done away with the Feral Orcs, as you would expect. The chariot here has done away with the raiders, as you would expect, and the Iron Orcs have got rid of the Reaver chariot, as you would expect. I've pivoted here so that I can charge the chariot. There's no way he's going to let me get that charge, but I'm hoping to generate a panic test through this unit, but more importantly redirect towards the eagles, because that's going to send the eagles away from the BSB and towards the board edge. So yeah, that's what's going on there. So that's the end of Silas's 2. End of my movement 2 here then. So the Iron Orcs have charged at the Lion Chariot, which has fled and has induced a double failed panic in the Sea Guard. So I think Silas is very unlucky there. That's like a 1 in 9 chance. But he has braved the longer redirect. I needed like a 9, and he's held his nerve, and the Iron Orcs have failed their charge. So that's paid off for him. Feral Orcs into the Citizen Spears over here. That's going to hurt the first time because they're going to fight in 4 ranks, but with battle focus and paired weapons and horde formation and born to fight, I think we'll wear them down over time. Dashers here rallying, teaming up with the Goblin King, so that if the Reavers kill the Splatter and hold, then the Dashers can get them, and if they kill the Splatter and overrun, then the King can get them. Goblins up here to claim the secondary objective, and the Dashers here to bait these Rymanites into a long failed charge, because I will of course flee towards my BSB and General. And that is the end of my movement 2. Okay, end of my 2 here then. So in the magic phase, I've spent a power die getting rid of the Oaken Throne. I've got Hand of Heaven off on one of the chariots, but it's done 0 wounds. I've got Awaken the Beast off on the Feral Orcs over here, just trying to give them a bit more punch, get through these Citizen Spears as quickly as we can. Trial of Faith on the Commander on the middle chariot here, but that's done 0 wounds, which is frustrating. The Splatterers have done a wound on this Lion Chariot over here, and then the Feral Orcs have won combat against the Citizen Spears, but the Citizen Spears are steadfast and so have held. And that was the end of my turn 2. Okay, end of Silas's movement 3 here then, and some really good play in his movement 3. You might remember I'd put a unit of raiders here to create this narrow gap that all 3 chariots couldn't fit through. Well, Silas has sprung that trap by going in with the Eagle, and then obviously he would then charge the same unit with one of the chariots, which would mean the Eagle could take up a lot of the space, and the chariot could then overlap and then overrun into the goblins here. So I've done a stand and shoot on the Eagle, got a couple of wounds on it. It's knowing that chariot charge will come, and then I've fled the chariot charge, but the Eagle has caught the raiders, and that's enabled all 3 chariots to get in here on the goblin. So a bit of a test for my new goblin unit here. He's also charged at the Splatterer here. The Reavers here are slightly out of place, and they'll get corrected later, and the Rymanites charging the Dashers over here who have fled, but that's slowing them down nicely because lots of failed charges is just negating their movement, so I'm quite happy for them to be there. Rallying up here, some interesting play here with these Eagles. The movement of this unit is just so versatile. Yeah, there you go. That is the end of Silas's movement 3. Okay, end of Silas's turn 3 here then. So in the magic phase, he's got a Favour of Melodies off, and he's undone a wound on one of his chariots. And then in the shooting phase, he has caused a wound on the Nasher Dashers from his chariot over here. The biggest news of the turn, though, was that the goblins here lost combat but held and took out the commander here. In the process with the Shady Gits and the Rending Banner and Spears being AP3 when charged when with a Rending Banner, so quite happy that we've dropped one of those. The Goblins lost combat. This was a debatable 12 inches. I say debatable because when we clicked on the viewer it was not 12 inches, it was 12 and a smidge, but when we brought the tape measure it was 12 inches. So I suppose a question for the audience here is, what do you do when you've got 2 measures and one says it's in and one says it's not? Is one more accurate? Leave a reply in the comments if you have any points on that. But anyway, so they've held with the BSB there, and the Citizen Spears here have broken but not been caught by the Feral Orcs, and that's the end of Silas's turn 3. Okay, my movement 3 here then. So I've activated my war cry and then charged at the fleeing unit of Citizen Spears, which has of course sent them off, and I have successfully redirected into the chariot that was over here. It has fled, but I'm currently swift striding and have therefore caught it. I've passed a discipline test and have completed a post-combat pivot ready for later on. Also charging the Reavers down here with the Nasher Dashers, Iron Orcs on top of the secondary objective to claim that, and moving the Splatterer 4 inches this way to get it out of the arc of vision of the commander here, although of course there's nothing I can do about the Eagles, but bringing the Chariot over here to kind of get after those Eagles if they don't overrun later. And that is the end of my movement 3. Okay, end of my turn 3 here then. So in the magic phase, I've got Break the Spirit off on the Knights of Rhymer. I should mention that I put 4 dice into that. Silas put 6 dice into the Dispel attempt, and I was successful, which is quite ridiculous. I do feel for him, because if you watch my last battle report, you'll know that that happened in the reverse quite a lot. I got Swarm of Insects off on the Chariot up here. Silas used a Veil token to negate that, but then I also got Trial of Faith off on the Chariot as well, and that one did do a wound. The Nasher Dashers beat the Reavers here and overran, taking them out of the arc of vision of the commander on Griffin there. And the Spearmen here again lost, but again they have 1 rank, so they're steadfast, so they held. I feel the Spears have been quite lucky here. Yes, they're on rerollables, but they're on rerollable 6 because the chief has been killed. So yeah, they're really riding their luck, to be honest. And that's the end of my turn 3. Okay, Silas's movement 4 here then. So a few charges. He's gone in to the Iron Orcs with the Lion Chariot. Lion Chariots are quite nasty, but not as nasty as this big block of Iron Orcs, so I don't think that's going to go so well for him. Charge on the Splatterer here with the Eagles, and a charge on the Splatterer here with the Griffin Commander. Now, there's nothing I can do about these, but nonetheless, I'm fairly happy because a Splatterer costs 140 points, so I don't feel Silas is getting a good return on these units. These are sort of 350-ish points each, so yeah, they're not wasting their time, but killing Splatterers, it just isn't enough for them, really. Yeah, and then dropping the Eagle there to chaff up the Feral Orcs, and the BSB bravely exiting his unit. Carry on, boys, you'll be fine. So, yeah, that's what's going on there. Knights of Rhymer advancing, not marching. Really happy with the way that I've delayed them around this bottom corner for the whole game so far. That's the end of Silas's movement 4. Okay, end of Silas's turn 4 here then. So I have used my first Binding Scroll to prevent a Favour of Melodies from being cast, and that spell was really starting to annoy me, so I'm quite pleased with that. So Silas has cast Awaken the Beast on the Chariot that went into the Iron Orcs, although you can see that would later die, which was predictable. But I think what he was really going for was getting the wound back on the Eagle for the Fountain of Youth, although I don't suppose that's going to help too much, because if the Eagle ends up in combat with either of these 2 units, it's going to die anyway. He's got Healing Waters off on his Sea Guard over here, just trying to make them a little bit more durable. The Reaver Chariot over here has done 1 wound on the Feral Orcs, and the Sea Guard have done 3 wounds on the Feral Orcs. Eagles have killed the Splatterer down here, and the Commander has killed his Splatterer, and then, as mentioned, the Iron Orcs have taken out the Chariot. The Goblins down here have finally broke. Their luck has run out, and they've been caught by the Chariot, and this was a real sort of test for my Goblins. Putting them up against 3 Elven Commanders on Chariots is probably not fair, but I couldn't help but feel that my Feral Orcs would have done a better job, although of course that would mean giving up a Feral Orc Boar unit, but yeah, I'm probably going to go back to the Feral Orcs, I think. And there you go, that's the end of Silas's turn 4. Okay, on to my movement 4 then. So a couple of charges in my movement 4. The Chariot here onto the flank of the Eagles, and the Iron Orcs onto the chaffing Eagle there. Reformed with the Feral Orcs ready to go after the Sea God over here, and bringing the Goblin King on his Spider to hunt down the BSB over here. Chaffing up the the Rhymer Knights with the Hoppers. They're obviously going to die, but I'm happy with that because the Rhymer Knights have not made their points back. And reformed my Dashers over here to induce some dangerous terrain tests with the eagles. And that just leaves the goblins, who are kind of there in the middle, not getting too close to the commander. I've just moved them forwards out of the arc of vision of this commander's chariot here. And that's the end of my movement 4. End of my turn 5 here then. So I should have mentioned I took 5 Iron Orc casualties from dangerous terrain charging that eagle, but as you can see, I would later smash through the eagle and overrun into the chariot. I got Break the Spirit off on the Rhymer Knight. Again, I've put 4 dice into it. Again, Silas has put 5 dice into it and it's gone through. So a complete reversal on our last game, so I do sympathise with him. And then the Iron Orcs have killed the eagle and overran, of course. And the chariot over here has beaten the eagles. Of course, it was on the flank, so that was always likely. And they have fled, but not been caught, but they have taken a few extra dangerous terrains in the process as well. And that is the end of my turn 4. Okay, on to Silas's movement 5 here then. So some really good play in Silas's movement 5, but also a significant mistake as well. He's charged at the goblins with his commander. The goblins have fled, but the commander's movement and Swift Stride has been sufficient to catch them. So that's my Witch Doctor and Goblin unit dead. He's rallied his eagles over here and used the position of the hoppers to prevent the chariot declaring a charge next turn. That's really good play. He's charged at the hoppers over here with the Rhymer Knights in spite of Break the Spirit, and he's got away with it as well. He's taken no wounds, so that's really good. And sort of backing off over here, but perhaps delaying the inevitable. So good play throughout most of the board, but I think putting these 2 chariots here is a mistake, because when the Iron Orcs dismember this Reaver chariot, which they certainly will, they'll get a free post-combat pivot and I'll be able to come after these chariots here. So that's a mistake. Anyway, that's the end of Silas's movement 5. Okay, end of Silas's turn 5 here then. So in Silas's turn 5, I've activated my second binding scroll, taking out a favour of melodies, and I've saved all my dispel dice for Raven's Wing, because I don't want Silas being able to fly either of these 2 units that are in trouble out of trouble. But that has meant that he's been able to get off an Oaken Throne and a Healing Waters and an Awaken the Beast. But to be honest, I just don't see 15 Seaguard taking on 20 Feral Orcs with paired weapons and a Mammoth Stabber and Born to Fight. With all the buffs in the world, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. So anyway, that's that. And then the Seaguard have done a couple of wounds on the Feral Orcs from shooting. The Rhymer Knights have killed the Dashers, that's to be expected. And the Iron Orcs have completed a post-combat pivot after they've taken out that Reaver chariot. And that's the end of Silas's turn 5. Okay, so this is partway through my movement 5, and in my movement 5, Silas kind of threw in the towel a little bit, and I do understand why he did. He was frustrated with the way that the game was going, and that's entirely fair. But let me just talk you through what was going on there. So the Feral Orcs were charging the Seaguard. The Iron Orcs charged at this chariot here, which fled. So they redirected into this chariot, which fled. It fled through the Rhymer Knights, who then failed a panic test and ran off the board. So it was just getting a bit silly, to be honest. And so we decided to kind of call the game a 20-0 there. Quick reflection on the game. I'm pretty happy with the way I handled the Rhymer Knights down here. I kept them kind of tucked up in this corner with minimal cost to myself throughout the whole game. My biggest concern going into this game was the sheer number of chariots in the army, and I knew that I needed to get them kind of coming at me 1 or 2 at a time. I didn't want to be hit by all of them simultaneously, and I feel that I managed to achieve that over the course of the game, so I'm happy with the flow there. Not so happy with the goblins, although they held up the chariots for a long time. I feel that they were lucky. That rerollable 6 just it doesn't happen that often, does it? I'm definitely going to go back to the Feral Orcs, but I do think that the most important factor in the game has been sheer good luck for me. Silas failing his double panic check with his Seaguard, with his BSB, a re-rollable 8. I mean, that's a 1 in 9 there straight away. There were at least 2, I think 3 instances where Silas put more dispel dice into the dispel attempt than I put into the casting attempt, and it went my way. I can completely sympathise with how annoying that is. The Rhymer Knights down here panicking. Now you could argue, well, he kind of created that situation by putting the chariots there for charging. Yeah, true, but the Rhymer Knights are discipline 9 on their general's discipline. I'm fairly sure they were in his bubble and failed anyway, and then also had sufficient movement to take them off the board. He was getting 5s and 6s whenever he needed 1s and 2s. He was getting 1s and 2s whenever he needed 5s and 6s. It was getting silly. So, yeah, that was it. That was the end of the game, which ends at 20-0. Yeah, nothing more really to say on that. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I will see you next time.